Welcome to the Managing IP Tables training module. In this module, you will learn how to manage and maintain IP tables from within the ZTC console. The administration tool for setting up and managing IP packet filtering for the Linux operating system is known as IPtables. Within ZTC Edge systems, the task of working with IP tables has been simplified and streamlined. Using the IPtables security page, you can set up, maintain, and inspect the various filter table chains and their underlying rules. You have access to the three main chains, input, output, and forward, for applying the packet filtering rules you need. With ZTC Edge systems, the rules are applied to each physical machine, to both IPv4 and IPv6 packets, and the rules remain persistent after rebooting. Each chain is a list of rules which can match a set of packets. Each rule specifies what to do with a packet that matches. When you create a rule, you specify a chain, either input, output, or forward, and a rule ID. When processing inbound packets, the kernel applies the rules associated with the input chain, and when processing output packets, the kernel applies the rules associated with the output chain. The kernel applies the rules associated with the forward chain when processing received inbound packets that must be routed to another host. Rules are applied in the order of the rule ID. A rule ID is similar to a row ID where, for example, rule ID 1 equals row 1. Instead of creating rules, however, you can load default settings for the rules. The IPtables security page displays a separate table for each of the three chains and their associated rules. The rules, if they exist for a particular chain, are sorted by rule ID. Columns display the network name, type of network, protocol, and other information. If necessary, use the scroll bar on the right side of the page to view all the rules, and the scroll bar at the bottom to view all the columns. For more information on IPtables functionality, see the Linux manual or man pages for IPtables. When setting up IPtables, please be aware that the ZTC Edge system uses the following ports. Port 443 in the local firewall for HTTPS communications. Port 22 for SSH, and 5900 through 5999 for each active VNC associated with each VM. Firewalls must allow traffic through the appropriate ports. Firewalls must permit ever-run protected VMs to contact quorum service computers using UDP port 4557. For additional information on TCP and UDP ports, access the knowledge base and search for the article TCP and UDP ports used by ZTC Edge, which is KB article 9357. Knowledge base articles can be found by logging into the Stratus Service portal. We'll now view how to create a new rule, remove a rule, load default settings, and import or export rules. To create or remove a rule, load default settings, and import or export rules, you must be in the IPtables security screen. To access the IPtables security screen, from the dashboard of the ZTC console, click Preferences in the left-hand navigation panel to open the Preferences page. On the Preferences page, click IPtables Security. Ensure that the Enable Port Management box has a check mark. You'll have the option to select one of the following. Apply to Host, which is the default setting. When checked, the new IPtable rule will apply only to the host operating system, which is ZTC, but not to the VM operating systems. If Apply to Host and Guest is checked, the new IPtables rule will apply to both the host operating system, which is ZTC, and the guest operating systems, which are the VMs. All existing rules, imported rules, and additional newly created rules will also apply to all guest operating systems. That is, for rules that are based on the same business network that has been allocated to the guest. Click the Insert New Rule button to open the New Rule pop-up window. In the Insert New Rule pop-up window, set values for the following. Chain. Select input, output, or forward from the drop-down list. Rule ID. Enter a number that establishes the order for processing the rule. Enter a value starting with 1 and up to a maximum value that is the total number of rules within the chain. Each rule ID value must be unique. If you enter a number that is already assigned to a rule, the existing rule is incremented by 1, as are subsequent rules, if any, and the number you enter is assigned to the new rule. So, if for example rule ID 1 already exists and you enter 1 for the new rule, the existing rule ID 1 becomes rule ID 2, the existing rule ID 2, if it exists, becomes rule ID 3, and so on. Shared network. Select a network from the drop-down list of all available shared networks. Protocol. Select UDP, TCP, or all. Selecting all causes the port number fields to become inactive, which will be gray, because setting a range of port numbers is unnecessary. Target. Select drop, accept, or reject for the action you want to apply to the packet that matches the rule specifications. Port number starting. For the first port of the range, enter a number 0 to 65,535 that is less than or equal to port number ending. For the last port of the range, enter a number 0 to 65,535 that is greater than or equal to port number starting. IP address starting. For the first IP address of the range, enter an IP address 0.0.0.0 through 255.255.255.255 that is less than or equal to IP address ending. For IP address ending, for the IP address of the range, enter an address 0.0.0 through 255.255.255.255 that is greater than or equal to IP address starting. For IPv6 address starting, for the first IPv6 address of the range, enter an address of through that is less than or equal to the IPv6 address ending. For IPv6 address ending, for the last IPv6 address of the range, enter an address of through that is greater than or equal to the IPv6 address starting. Click Insert to insert the new rule. Click Save at the bottom of the page, or click Reset to cancel any unsaved changes, which restores rules to those of the last saved session. After the new rule is saved, the IPtable security page displays it in the appropriate chain. To remove a rule, select the rule that you want to remove. Click Remove in the rightmost column for the rule you selected. Click Save at the bottom of the page, or click Reset to cancel any unsaved changes, which restores rules to those of the last saved session. After the rule is removed, it disappears from the IPtable security page. To load default settings, click Load Default Settings at the bottom of the page. A warning message appears. Current settings will be overridden by the initial settings. Click OK if you want to load the default settings, or click Cancel to cancel the loading of default settings. To import or export rules, click Import or Export at the bottom of the page. For import, in the dialog box that appears, browse to and select the XML file that you want to import. All rules associated with the shared network's type within the imported XML file will be generated for each existing shared network on the system with the same type. After you have selected an XML file, the following message appears. Append will reserve current rule set. Select Overwrite if you want to clear out all current rules. Click the appropriate button. With Append, the selected XML file is appending to the existing XML file, preserving existing data. With Overwrite, the selected XML file overwrites the existing XML file, eliminating the existing rules. With Export, all rules in the table are exported to an XML file that is then downloaded to your local system. This completes the Managing IP Tables training module. Thank you for viewing this module.